These two things go together. By the way, you can turn your cameras back on, okay, if you want to. Go right ahead. I can see you guys, which is fun. I'm not recording you. I'm just recording myself. So go ahead and turn them back on if you want. That way, when we're doing stuff, I can see you too, if you want. Otherwise, it's fine. And so there's a lot of things in common between sitting in a good posture and standing in a good posture. Basically, we're doing some of the same postural cues, and what we're trying to do is accomplish elongation, or forces which are gently pulling down from the bottom and pulling up from the top. Because we know with scoliosis, we've got that sideways curvature, and with gravity, the curvature is pulling down, it speeds up the degeneration, and so one of the things that we need to do is we need to counteract the forces of gravity degenerating and sort of pulling down on that scoliosis. So we use leverage. We're going to set up a posture, and then we're going to tilt the posture. So we're going to make gravity into our friend instead of something that's hurting us for our scoliosis. We're going to use it to our advantage, and so we're going to accomplish those elongation forces. Now, when we're standing, we accomplish them more. There is a greater elongation force that we can accomplish than when we're sitting. That being said, when we're sitting, the base of support that we set up has a more gentle and complete neurological effect to help our nervous system take stock of the posture and the positions of the vertebrae. So the sitting is more subtle, but there's a sense in which it's more powerful. And the standing, we're getting more physical. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you how we're standing to do something that's good for our body, for our back. So what we're going to be talking about is joint angles, okay? So the joint angles just means whatever angle your joint's at. So for example, I bend my arm like this, okay? So here's like a 90-degree angle, right? So just joint angles. Now, every time you change your position, you're changing the angles of your joints, okay? So let's do something where we're going to make it work for us. We're going to stand about feet shoulder width apart, okay? I'm going to turn sideways so you can see me from the side. You don't have to, okay? So, and I'm going to do again our beautiful cues of ear over shoulder, shoulder over hip, okay? And then you can think hip over knee and knee over ankle. But the most important ones are ear, shoulder, and hip for our purposes right now. Okay, so to do that, you're probably going to feel like you have to stand pretty upright. It might feel a little awkward, kind of like a soldier. Your chest is up, and you know it might feel a little bit rigid. Now, we are not trying to get rid of all the curves in our back. Okay, we have some lumbar curve here. We have some cervical curve. We're not trying to erase them, and we're not trying to get them completely flat. But we are going to flatten them a little bit, okay, to accomplish those elongation forces. So we're going to lessen them a bit. So we're going to start by bending our knees and straightening our knees. So just come with me here, okay, with a nice little bit of motion, and bend your knees and straighten your knees. And I want you to bring your attention to what's happening with your back when you do this. Okay, so if I'm going to show you an example here. I can bend my knees and I can lean backwards. I don't want to do that, okay? You might notice that you might tend to do that. Some people do that. It's sort of normal. Because bending the knees changes the joint angles of the spine, and so we have to do a modification. We have to do something. Okay, so what we can do is we can bend those knees, and then we can let the hips drop down, and we can bring them maybe a ½ inch to the front. We can bring our pelvis under maybe a ½ inch, really a tiny little bit. I don't want you doing it a lot, okay? And then we can now bring our chin in about a ½ inch, okay? So these are some of the cues that are so important for standing. Okay, so now with the knees bent, maybe just an inch, okay? It feels a little awkward, I'm sure, okay? Knees bent a little bit. The hips are now pulling down. There's a downward force that you're accomplishing there. And so your lumbar vertebrae are elongating. They're being pulled down very gently. And then, by tucking in your chin a little bit, now you're pulling up. So from the cervical vertebrae, you're pulling up. Now, this whole thing that we're doing here, I like to say we're playing with our joint angles, okay? Because let's come back up again. Let's shake it out a bit. I say that because you have to experiment with this, and it's going to feel a little bit awkward when you're not used to it. It is a little bit of a can of worms. I like to say it's like a can of worms. On the outside, it's solid, and it's straight, and it looks good, and on the inside, everything is wiggling and feels a little bit awkward. Okay, so that could be your experience. It's normal. Okay, so let's come back into it here, because we have to get used to this. Okay, so now we're going to coordinate with our breath. So let's breathe in. We're going to come up, and then when you breathe out, I want you to bend down. And let's keep doing this again for a little bit. Just take some breaths here. Okay? Let's breathe in, and let's And breathe out and come down. Go at your own rhythm. And when you breathe in, I'd like you to take your breath a little lower. So bring it a little bit lower to your solar plexus area. Okay, so a little bit lower than your rib cage, just a bit. And you're going to know it's a bit lower because you're going to get some expansion when you inhale in the abdominal area. It's going to expand a bit. Okay, so normally when you inhale, your chest is going up, and that's fine, and you might be experiencing that too. Okay, but we're going to try to pull it a little lower. So inhaling, standing up. Exhaling, coming down. One more time. So now, once again, when you exhale, you're going to bend those knees and then keep those knees bent here. Keep breathing, but keep your knees bent. And we're going to look at those joint angles again. So the knees are bent. The hips are down to the bottom. They're pulling down. Maybe you bring them half an inch forward. We're going to tuck our chin in, maybe half an inch. And then we're going to take this whole beautiful elongated structure and we're going to tilt it forward half an inch. So before I said you could lean back, we don't want to do that. You could be quite upright, that's fine. And now we're going to even lean the tiniest bit forward. So these are quite subtle movements that we're doing here. And these are the basis of the postures of Qigong and Tai Chi that are so good for scoliosis. So this is the basic standing posture, what you're doing here right now. This is a basic stance. Okay, so let's inhale up and we're going to get moving again. Straighten those knees, exhale down, bend those knees. And now I want you to take it a little further. Watch what I'm doing here. I'm going to bend a little more and I'm going to lean a little more forward. So we're going to accentuate the leverage. So around now, your chin is in a little bit. Okay, so you're experimenting. If at any moment you feel frustrated and you just don't feel good, just change what you're doing. Give yourself a break. Okay, that's what, remember, I say we're playing around here. We're playing with these angles to find something that feels okay. Okay, let's come up again, inhaling up, exhaling down. Forward a little more, sort of like you're skiing. Okay, or something like that. In the, apparently, in the special forces in the U.S. Army, when they're doing their weight training, their calisthenics, their body weight training, there's something called the ready position, where they get down like this, and they do a lot of stuff like this. It's called the ready position. So this is very similar to what is called the ready position, okay? But it's much more subtle, and we're really thinking about our joint angles. But the reason I mention that to you is because when your body is leaning forward, you're in a position where you're pretty ready. If your body's leaning back, forget it. You're not ready for anything, right? You're asking for a loss of balance and a loss of postural control. Okay, so now, what you just did is quite subtle. So let's come down again, knees slightly bent, okay? Hips tiny bit pulled down, maybe tilted a bit to the front. I do that a little bit less these days because I don't, personally, I don't want to take my lumbar curve away too much. I want a little bit of lumbar curve, okay? Chin in a little bit, and here we are. So you've accomplished basic elongating forces standing. Now, as you lean forward more, what I'm hoping for you is that you start to feel your scoliosis curves. So if you have a double curve, you're starting to feel, you're having what's called proprioception. Your nervous system is beginning to tell you more about your curves as you tilt slightly forward. So I can tell more about what's happening in my thoracic vertebrae. I'm looking for it. I want you to look for it. Tilt forward. Okay, let's experiment. Let's even round our shoulders forward now. Okay, let's round our shoulders forward and round your upper back, kind of like you're hunching your back. Well, I want you to feel the musculature around your spine. So whether that means you feel it in the lumbar area more or in the thoracic area more, okay, let's keep going. Let's exhale down, roll forward, inhale up. I want you to get in to those areas of the back that you don't usually get into, okay? Thoracic area is the toughest area to feel what's happening because you're surrounded by the ribs, okay? And so it's quite stable, okay? Nice and easy. Now, keep that posture down, feet down, or rather knees bent, and we're going to try something very subtle here. So, knees are bent, posture is elongated, my chest is up pretty high. Now, breathe in and bring your hands up here. Breathe out and bring your fingertips together. Breathe in and open your hands. And breathe out and bring your fingertips together. So, hopefully you can see a little bit that my posture is elongated here. I've still accomplished some elongation forces. sometimes it's so subtle that it's hard to see from the outside because the little joint angles I'm making are quite small. The changes are quite small. But now that we're playing with our hands here, so inhale, open. Excuse me. Exhale, come closed, and touch your fingertips and your thumb. So, everything we do when we're standing, and we're doing some standing that's good for our scoliosis, everything we're doing is on an elongated base of support. And it might hurt, right? Like I see, maybe you need to sit down because actually maybe it's quite uncomfortable for your back at first. That's a good sign, believe it or not. And why it's a good sign is not because we want to hurt. That's never something we want. That's not fun. But the reason that it's hurting, if you're doing this and it's feeling uncomfortable, what's good about that is that you actually got into your spine and you actually started elongating your spine, and it's a bit uncomfortable. Okay, let's do this 3 more times. Inhaling, open. Exhaling down. Touch the fingertips and the thumb. And so here again, the reason we're doing this very, very subtle motion is that your nervous system is going to get a better picture of your scoliosis curves because you set up an elongated posture, and now you're touching your hands, and when your left hand touches your left hand gets a sense of the positioning of your right hand, and your right hand gets a sense of the positioning of your left hand. And guess what your hands are connected to? Your arms. And guess what your arms are connected to? Your shoulders. And guess what your shoulders are connected to? Your chest. So you are informing, right? I mean, I know you knew that, sort of being silly, but you are informing your body, and you are informing your nervous system of the subtleties of your posture here. Inhaling, exhaling. Now, we're going to switch that out, so just real quick there. And we're going to go to 2 more moves. So, I'm going to show you this one sideways. Okay, so very easy. Shake it out a little bit. Walk around a bit. Anyone have any questions here? Anyone have anything you want to pass by me here? Type it in the chat, or you can let me know. You can unmute yourself. If not, it's fine. We're going to continue. Okay, so very, very subtle. Okay, so working with scoliosis is something we want to do gently and carefully, right? Even if you get a chiropractic treatment and they'll adjust your spine, and there are good chiropractors doing good adjustments, that adjustment is very subtle. Not subtle. It's very sudden, and it is a big motion all at once. But then, and that can be very good for you. Sometimes it doesn't work well, as we know, but sometimes it works well. But the issue then becomes, how do you maintain the correction that they introduced, right? So what we're doing now is we're doing things that are really good for maintaining corrections. If you got a correction, this is really good because it helps your body develop the musculature to maintain that correction. So now we're going to come back into that simple posture. Okay, inhaling up, nice and big. You can open up your chest a bit. Exhaling down. So again, I say play because we're not robots, right? Sometimes I want to inhale longer. Sometimes I want to inhale in my chest because I need more air. And sometimes you're not going to want to move in the same rhythm as me. So all of that is good. It's fine. Okay, so now inhaling up, exhaling down. Now we're going to start playing with our arms here. So inhaling up, maintaining my knees slightly bent. They're not completely straight. Maintaining my chin in a little bit. Exhaling down, bending a little more, leaning a little more forward. Okay? So don't bring your hands higher than your shoulders for now. Okay? Because that's a different effect than we want right now. We just want it stopping right at our shoulders. And you are doing what's called body weight exercise. Meaning no added weight. Okay? No elastics, no weight. Those things are great, but here, just so you know, this is, in essence, this is body weight exercise. You are using the weight of your arms, which are between 15 to 30 pounds or so, and that's, got a good weight on our arms just normally. It's just normal. We don't think about it because we've got them every day. Okay, so breathing in, coming up, let the weight of those arms work on your back. Breathing out. Okay, watch my back. I'm keeping it straight, but my chin is in. I'm exaggerating for you guys a bit, okay? Breathing in. Let that weight get transferred in through your adjusted spine, okay? You've adjusted the joint angles of your spine. Up and down. Nice and easy. 3 more times, and then we're going to switch. Up and down. So if you're not doing the joint angle work here, okay, and you can do this sitting actually as well. There's another way to do it sitting, which is that you sit on the edge of your chair. If you've seen what I talked about with sitting, you need to be on the edge of your chair with your feet flat on the ground, and then this will still be beneficial for your back and for your posture, okay? Up and down, okay, so more than 3 times. I want you guys to feel this, okay? But don't go higher than your shoulders for now, okay? There are other moves that go higher than your shoulders. This one is just up to your shoulders, very simple. Very good. Now, let's go ahead and do one more move for today to keep it short and sweet. So the third thing I wrote in the little summary is, what do we do with our limbs to benefit our back when we're standing? So, do you understand, theoretically, that because we've changed the joint angles of the spine, right? Lumbar curve, cervical curve. We have elongated a little bit. So on the basis of that elongation, anything we do with our limbs can be made to affect our scoliosis in a beneficial way. Let me demonstrate for you. If I don't change my joint angles, okay? So I'm just going to stand the way I normally do, let's say, or the way a lot of people do. Knees locked, let's say, like you're standing in line at the grocery store. A lot of people will lock their knees, which your knees can do, okay? But it's not usually going to hurt your knees, but lock knees, but it's not great posture, okay? So basically hyperextended knees, and then my butt sticks out a little bit, my lower curve gets big here, okay? And then that travels up. So all my curves are accentuated. It's relatively normal, but all my curves are accentuated. When I change that, when I bring the knees a little bit forward, my center of gravity starts to lower about a ½ inch, okay? My pelvis, maybe I come a little bit forward, but even just bending my knees, I feel the pulling down in my lumbar spine that I want. It's subtle, okay? Then I tuck in my chin, and then I tilt everything slightly forward. So I've got ear, shoulder, hips, but it's elongated, maybe by just a ½ inch in the whole length of the spine. Maybe from the bottom to the top, the actual elongation is only ½ inch or an inch. And that is enough to do what we want. So without that elongation, if I move my limbs, okay, it's fine. We're used to doing it. But I can't pinpoint the force or the effort of using my limbs into my scoliosis spine. With the changes, I can. So let's try this, okay? Get those changes again. Knees slightly bent, posture slightly elongated. And now, on this base of support, I want you to lift one arm up, 90 degrees, and I want you to feel what that does to your back. Do you feel your thorax turning a bit? Do you feel a bit of effort in your back? Okay, let's go to the other side. Okay, up. So subtle, simple, not super difficult, not generating a lot of forces in the spine, right? Scoliosis-specific exercise is a lot more rigorous. Like, for example, our sideline hip lifts, things like that, become much more difficult, right? This is not that difficult. It's not supposed to be. Great. We'll take something that's not super difficult. Okay, that's nice. So now, we're going to come to our knees. So, put your hands out at your sides here. We're going to combine this movement again after. So, this is now a little more complex, a little more tough. I want you to bring one knee up. Basically, you're balancing. It doesn't matter how well you balance or not, and you don't actually have to bring your knee up a lot. It could just be up a little bit. But your standing knee has to be bent, okay? See, now we're getting really complicated here. Now you're going to be thinking, John, this is too much. Okay, too much to coordinate. Okay, one knee, other knee. And look at my standing leg. If you can see from there, my standing leg is still bent and my posture is still elongated. So, because we have scoliosis and we have asymmetry on the two sides of our spine, when you lift up each one of your limbs, the way that it affects your spine will be different on each side. And because you're elongating your spine, the way that it will be different is going to be helpful. The differences on each side, the asymmetry is normal, and the difference that you will feel in the two sides of your back is a helpful difference. Because you've introduced elongation, and then on the basis of that elongation, you are now going to lift your limbs. So the forces get brought right into the spine, and the spine begins to strengthen exactly where it needs to, as long as you're doing these elongation forces. Let's put this all together now, and let's bring up one hand and one foot. and then bring it down. And this doesn't have to be high, okay? Like, for example, if the balancing is a little difficult, you can just put your front foot forward. You can even leave your toe on the ground, okay? And then one hand comes up. Okay, other side. Okay, this is the last thing we're doing today. So just give it a try. And so I'll give you an example. When I do it on my right side, I have a lot more pulling just because of the rotation. I basically don't have scoliosis left. You guys know my scoliosis was very minor anyway in the thoracic spine. It wasn't, you know, so, but I still have rotation left. Okay, I'm rotated to the right. My left side of my rib cage is more forward than my right. And so when I lift up my right side, once I've elongated my spine, I feel pulling and it's more uncomfortable. I feel pulling behind one of the areas of my ribs, okay, because it's rotated too far back. And now we'll go to the left. So let's do two more on each side. Let's breathe in to come up and breathe out to come down. Breathing in to come up. Breathing out to come down. And I know I'm sort of packing a lot into this. We didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about the breathing. In the program materials, there's breathing instructions for you, the 3 kinds of breathing that we do. Okay, let's just do one more here. So elongated spine, my leg is still bent. That's one of the really hard things to do. Okay, my standing leg is still bent. So my thigh is working. Okay, and my whole torso was working on that elongated base of support. Does that make sense? Does that make sense theoretically? Yeah? Good. I want to know what you guys think. Did you catch me and say, well, yeah, but John, what about this? Or what about that? Okay, so those are good questions. Okay, I like it when you guys have intelligent questions. Okay, you can unmute yourselves here. I'll unmute you if you like. We're going to have a little Q&A now. So thank you for joining. I'm going to cut the video here for the replay, but I will have a Q&A if you guys want right now. And otherwise, you guys know where to reach me. And nice to see you. So much fun to see you guys. So remember, we do have, if you want to try the 4-month program for $20, you can try a 1 hour trial with me where we go through a bunch of different stuff. We spend some time together. You can also talk to me at any time for no cost. Just message me, talk to me, pick up the phone. WhatsApp is free no matter where you are. And so that's easy. Yeah. All right, guys. Fun to see you guys. Thanks for joining again.
Are you ready for a question?
Yep.
Okay. So I get the head, like the chin tuck. I can feel that finally making the connection. Yay. I can feel that elongate, but I'm not sure. You're just saying that the hip tuck a little bit. Is it more of a tuck? You're tucking chin, tucking hip a little bit?
Yeah, as opposed to?
Well, when you go down, I'm assuming your pelvis kind of wants to naturally tuck if you're thinking about it. So is that what you want to have happen?
It is. And I think, well, it's a good question because I think that the way I was speaking about it was a little bit unclear because I was telling you to tuck a bit, but then I also said that I'm trying to hardly tuck because I don't want to flatten my lower back completely. So I think maybe it was a bit confusing what I said. But actually, Sandy, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. When you bend your knees, it's like your pelvis wants to tuck already. And you feel those elongation forces. So sometimes without you having to do anything, you feel that because of you bending the knees, the way that the joint angles change, it gets transferred up, right? So let me say I'm here normally, okay? So I could be like this. My posture used to be like this when I was a teenager. I used to have, really. And so my dad said something to me about it, and I started to feel it. And I was like, oh boy, I got to do something about it. So here I'm standing, nice and straight, nice and tall. I don't normally stand like this because it almost looks funny, right? It looks like you're standing at attention in a military parade or something, and it feels a little awkward. But when we bend those knees, what is happening? I'm examining it with you here. So as I bend my knees and as I tilt very slightly forward, even if I'm bending and tucking my chin and tilting forward, you start to feel the musculature around the lumbar vertebrae start to work, right? You can feel it. Mm-hmm. So a little bend of the knees, even tuck. So all that to say, even without thinking of tucking in your pelvis about an inch, as long as you feel that pulling down in the lumbar area and you start to feel the musculature just a tiny bit, Does that,
Okay.
then you're on the right track. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
To me,
Okay.
it does. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have anything they want to go over?
Yeah, John, it's Karen. Hey, thanks for these free classes. I wanted to make sure I am understanding what we're doing. When we bring the leg up, okay, we have the standing leg bends, the other leg comes up, and that same arm on the same side comes up too, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to just say that feels really pretty good. I mean, to me, when you do that in a repeated fashion, it feels to me like, I don't know, it feels like maybe you're working the muscles in a way that you should be, but you usually aren't.
Yes.
Is that right? Is that possible?
It exactly is right, and that is exactly what you're doing, and that is exactly why it's so applicable. Because, you know, exactly as you said, we don't usually use much of this musculature unless we're doing something very concentrated, like we're doing a series of exercises where we know we have to get to the back, and so we're doing something with the back musculature. Otherwise, we don't think about it, we don't use it, and the areas of the back that we're touching there with that slight elongation, we don't usually work all the way up the musculature of the spine, up and down. Mm-hmm. And it does feel good, doesn't it? And what it feels like is it feels like you're giving your spine a chance to derotate and elongate and straighten.
Right, yeah, true.
And that
Absolutely.
is what you're doing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so it's important to know that this is, you know, it's something which doesn't happen fast, right? I think you all understand that. It's something which doesn't happen fast, but it's so good to be on the journey and to be going in that direction. It's so therapeutic, and we start to get less pain. We start to get more strength. We start to get better posture and better mobility. So these things start to work together for us as we go with it. Okay, so as long as we're carefully moving forward, gently moving forward, that's what to do. So that's really important too for expectations, right? You might think, okay, well, I'm going to jump into this, and you know, there's a reason to have a 4-month program. It's to make sure that you are started and feeling. I mean, we do shorter things too, of course, and that'll help you too. You come out of a shorter thing with a program, but it takes time to gently establish something, and then feel good about it and see that it's progressing your posture. So, you know, I guess what I'm saying is 2 things. Don't lose hope, but when you have hope, recognize that you need to be doing something most days, something loving, something gentle, something that works for you, but something that is getting you going in the direction you need. Because doing nothing, it's just going to get worse. We know that, right? Yeah. All right, well, that's my spiel. Thank you, guys. All right, we'll talk soon, okay? Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. It's so much fun to see you all. Thank you.
Thanks. See you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.